Hi, Robin with Oxy-Dry, and today I'm just doing this one room, fairly large room, and I actually, this will be the third time I'm in this house. I did the room opposite where all the junk is right now, about a couple weeks ago, and a few weeks before that I did this area out here, in this family room, and a set of stairs, and they'd never used us before when I first came here. And so they were so thrilled with the results that they decided the carpet they thought maybe was done for was good for another few years, and so they decided to continue on with cleaning the rest of the basement area as they got it ready. So here I am in this room, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about this carpet that I'm on. And this is actually a Berber carpet. You can see that it has sort of almost a pebbly surface. You can see the loops. And Berber is a style of carpet, and it can be made from olefin or wool or even nylon. But the style is sort of this pebbly looped, kind of like my knuckles there. It's kind of looped over and over and over again, but has a sort of a pebbly appearance. You can probably see it maybe a little bit more in this area because it hasn't been walked on. But this is a Berber. And yesterday I actually went and looked at a Berber, and it was 6 months old. And the customer, who was a repeat customer, they had moved. I cleaned the house they had been in, and then they moved into this new place. Put this high-end Berber, very low pile, much lower pile than this one, a very tight Berber style. And the hallway, they were concerned because it was looking darker, and they presumed that was because it was soiling. So when I got there and I took a look at it, I immediately thought, this doesn't seem right. So there's a simple little test that you can do, and so I decided that I would do it to determine whether or not what I was looking at was a carpet that was soiling rapidly, or was a carpet that was simply showing texture and wear, and therefore appearing as if it was soiled. And the way that you do this is I have a 100-watt flood lamp, like a work light. I brought it in and I plugged it in the hallway, and I shone it straight down on the carpet, holding it about maybe a foot or so above the carpet. And the appearance of what it looked like soiling in that hallway completely disappeared, and the carpet was even from wall to wall, because what's happening is that the light was reflecting directly back up to our eyes, and the overwashing of the light overcame the dulling effect that the wear and the texture, slight texture change, was showing. And the reason that the carpet would do that is that even though 6 months had gone by, and even though it was a wool, which is duller than, this is a piece of acrylic, and you can see how shiny that is. The light, we see by light reflecting off of the surface, but where the texture is changed from a little bit of compression and distortion of the pile, and as you can see on the end here, how dull this is, the abrasion effect, the light will scatter, and even though you can see this is perfectly clean, this looks darker or duller. And that was the effect that was happening in this hallway that I was looking at. And so when I showed that to them, I said, I can't restore this because your issue isn't soiling. Because if it was soiling, it would actually look more, you'd see the soil, you'd literally see where the soil ended, and that from the tracking or whatever. And there was no soil present on that carpet that was visible in the light. It was simply an issue of the wear and texture change. That there was the center hall of the house, so they were constantly walking back and forth on there, and although it was only 6 months old, it was beginning to show the effect of the abrasion and the slight pile distortion, and looked darker than along the edges of the hallway where nobody had ever walked. So I didn't clean it. Of because I wouldn't have been able to do anything with it anyway. And the other thing about the Berber carpets is that Berber carpets will tend to wick more readily than other carpets. And the reason that they do is because the loop will tend to hold moisture under the loop, and they take longer to dry than a comparative length of, say, a cut pile, because moisture, once the moisture is in the carpet, the way the carpet dries is that the moisture will travel up the fiber to the end and then evaporate off the end of the fiber. But because the Berber carpet style is a loop, there's no actual end per se, there's just a top, but at the top of that loop shape, think of it like it's kind of a U shape, I guess you could say. Underneath that loop, moisture can hold there considerably longer than if it was a cut pile. And one of the things that will compound that issue is if the carpet isn't thoroughly pre-vacuumed first to ensure that you've got as much of the dust out of the carpet fiber as possible. And of course with the Berber, they tend to, the yarns, of course, are kind of, kind of squeezed together, so whatever gets done between the yarns can be a little difficult to pull out with a vacuum. So you want to make sure you're using a good powerful vacuum that really does extract well. And again, the whatever gets underneath the loop, dust or whatever, is much more difficult to remove it. So giving the Berber carpet a very good pre-vacuuming will help to hopefully eliminate the possibility of any wicking happening no matter what method you're using. And so pre-vacuuming is a really important thing to do. So just thought you might want to hear that. And as you can see, how smooth my machine is going. If you're using a rotary and you're finding it's constantly bouncing, there's a reason, and it isn't, because it's not normal for a rotary to be bouncing. My pad is not exactly centered either, so I'll make it centered, and then we'll see it again if I can remove any movement at all there, because I actually kind of hate it when it oscillates or whatever. I much prefer it to keep running smooth. Okay, I think that's slightly better. Oh, that's worse. That's even worse. Okay, that's pretty good. So, it shouldn't be bouncing at all, really. I mean, there's a slight movement there, but shouldn't be much at all. Now, the other thing about the Berber style carpets is, especially with the heavier looped Berber style carpets, they are a little more challenging to deal with if you're using an OP machine, because the OP machine will tend, on the heavier looped, and particularly the olefin ones that are where the olefin fiber is quite stiff, they will tend to kind of chatter on the carpet, and sometimes it actually feels like you're rolling into a jackhammer. They're so they're vibrating so much. And years ago, when I was using my OP a lot more. I remember a number of times where I went into the house with the OP and I was dealing with a Berber style carpet, and the machine was hopping around like a jackhammer. I would stop and I would go and get my rotary, and look how smooth it is. Even on the heavier lugged carpets, they're just so smooth. So that was another one of the reasons why I opted to, after trying for a while, I decided that OP was just not the right machine for myself for residential carpeting, because the rotary will do everything without a problem, and the OP has a real problem, you know, on these heavier lugged Berber style carpets. Man, it would shake like crazy. Even when you put a glider underneath it, although that would certainly help. But why should I when I got the rotary? It works perfectly well. Cleans beautiful, and by the way, they really do clean beautiful. In fact, if you've got a Berber carpet, what really is the way to go. If there's any real visible soiling at all, make sure you go over it first with your fiber pad, and then your Iron Man or microfiber or whatever, because nothing will clean them better than that. And I think one of the reasons is because with a Berber style carpet, there's more of the actual surface of the yarn that's exposed, because you walk on the side of the yarn, as opposed to on a cut pile you walk on the end of the yarn. With a Berber you walk on the side of the yarn. So when you put the fiber pad particularly onto the Berber carpet and you start cleaning it, you're really getting a really effective scrubbing action on that exposed surface, and you're able to really scour out the scratches, the microscopic scratches on the olefin particularly, and you actually are able to put almost a polish back onto the surface of that yarn. So they do really well with the rotary, with the fiber pad. And what's interesting, I find, is particularly with the olefin Berbers, is sometimes you might look at the carpet that you just cleaned in the high traffic areas and it still looks a bit dull and dingy, and you're wondering, could I get that better? But in almost every case, if you went back and looked at that carpet the following day, that dull or darker area where the high traffic area was will be completely gone. And I've seen that so many times. So that's a bit of a insight for you. And by the way, I'm only using an Iron Man on this carpet because the only area where there was any actual visible soiling was there was an outline of a plastic floor mat here. Probably had a desk in the corner here, and it's pretty much gone now. You can only see a slight change there. So I'm pretty much finished this room, and it took me, what, 13 minutes? I didn't try to go fast. And I won't have to post vacuum this, because it doesn't need grooming, so that's it. I've done my job. So anyway, thanks for coming along for a little ride, and hope that'll be that helpful to particularly you new guys that are getting into the business, a little bit of insight into understanding how Berber carpets behave and why they behave the way they do. And remember that a rotary will clean them just fantastic. So there you go. Hope that'll help you out. Have a good day.